Sorry, we are in line 7. So it says, you who still the noise of the seas, the noise of their waves, and the tumult of the peoples. And so remember, that's going to send us to what? The New Testament about Jesus still in the waters from Matthew 8:26, where it says, but he said to them, why are you fearful, O you of little faith? Then he arose and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. Now, before Jesus had done that, Jesus had already performed some miracles to the disciples, in front of the disciples, and they still were fearful and frightened, and it's like they couldn't gain or grasp who Jesus really was. And so, and I believe really the reason why Jesus did all these miracles is so the disciples could have some faith and some belief in him. Because you can't really preach and teach if you don't believe it, and if you don't follow it, and if you don't live it, and if you don't see God moving and working every day. And so they had to take root of that and see Jesus do things and different miracles and stuff like that in people's lives, so that he'll know that that he's still doing that. He could do that for in their lives and before their eyes. So he said in Matthew 8, going up to 23, now when he got into a boat, his disciples followed him. See, they following him all over the place. And suddenly a great tempest arose on the sea, so that the boat was covered with the waves, but he was asleep. Then his disciples came to him, awoke him, saying, Lord, save us, we are perishing. But he said to them, why are you fearful, O you of little faith? Then he arose and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. And the men marveled, saying, who can this be, that even the winds and the sea obey him? All that Jesus had already done in the first 8 chapters, 7.5 chapters of Matthew, and Jesus sleeping. And if you don't see Jesus worried, then you don't worry. Jesus was sleeping. He wasn't looking at the winds and the waves. He created that. He has control over that. He wasn't worrying about that. When you see Jesus in a panic, then you be in a panic. If you don't see Jesus panicking, you don't panic. You don't see Jesus worrying, you don't worry. All right, so let's go back to Psalm 65. And it says, in the tumult of the peoples, so he says, you who still the noise of the seas, the noise of their waves. He did that in Matthew 8. And the tumult of the people, so the terror of the people, that sends us to Isaiah 17. (17, 12, and 13). That says, woe to the multitude of many people who make a noise like the roar of the seas, and to the rushing of nations that make a rushing like the rushing of mighty waters. The nations will rush like the rushing of many waters, but God will rebuke them, and they will flee far away, and be chased like the chaff of the mountains before the wind, like a rolling thing before the whirlwind. It doesn't take God long to move into calm and in a storm. Everything can be rushing and raging at you and at me. But God, once he rebukes it, it has to flee and it has to cease. Let's look at line 8. They also who dwell in the farthest parts are afraid of your signs. You make the outgoings of the morning and evening rejoice. And so it says, they also who dwell in the farthest parts are afraid of your signs. So people are afraid of God's sign. Even the disciples, when they saw Jesus rebuking the wind and causing the wind to say, well, who is this that can, they were afraid of the sign that Jesus did. Okay, so it says, those who dwell in the farthest parts are afraid of your signs. You make the outgoings of the morning and evening rejoice. So God can make the morning and an evening shout for joy. Say he can. And I tell you that he can. And I'll see you in the next segment again.